are the Dallas Cowboys actually legitimate this year? And which team is this year's biggest disappointment in the NFL regular season? I'm Ahan Rungta from Player Profiler, and these are our 4 best bets of the 2023 NFL regular season, Team Wins Edition. As usual, remember to gamble responsibly, and in this video, I'll give you unit recommendations for each bet. Remember that 1 unit is approximately 1% of your bankroll, and therefore 2 units would be approximately 2% of your bankroll. And if you want to see a written edition of this video, go to playerprofiler.com/articles, where you can see articles about fantasy football, but also an article on these best bets. Starting off with my first best bet of the season, and we're actually getting plus money on this, I'm headed over to the self-proclaimed America's team. What about the polarizing Dallas Cowboys? Now, Dak Prescott recently said, "I'm not throwing 10 picks." Is that confidence well placed? I think it is, because this Dallas team is legit after the offseason they just had, and that's why I'm taking the over on their 10.5 wins at plus 125 on FanDuel is your best price. You might need to check the alternate win totals menu on this one on your book if the regular line is 9.5, which is heavily juiced to the over. Now, this is just phenomenal value on a team that, although many dislike, did win 12 games last season, despite not even having their franchise quarterback Dak Prescott healthy for a full season. Last year, Dallas played in a very competitive NFC East, which included the eventual NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles and the rebranded and evolved New York Giants run by head coach Brian Daboll. The Giants did get better this offseason, but the Commanders got worse, and the Eagles, they moved fairly laterally this offseason. They lost Javon Hargrave, but addressed some crucial needs in the NFL draft. Regardless, the Cowboys could be 1 game worse than they were last season, and we could still win this bet that we're getting at plus money. In 2022, the Cowboys ranked number 2 in defensive DVOA under defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, who was a key in drafting defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. This efficient defense also added former Defensive Player of the Year Stephon Gilmore to address a dire need of area, quarterback. They've also addressed depth all over the field at the NFL draft, picking up a tight end, a linebacker, a defensive end, and an offensive tackle. And all this happened without losing many pivotal pieces to the success of the 2022 team. They lost tight end Dalton Schultz, a washed-up running back in Zeke Elliott, and wideout Noah Brown, who was replaced with the far superior veteran Brandon Cooks. To top it all off, a healthy Dak Prescott could very well be one of the league's best quarterbacks with the added help around him. In week 1 last year, he hurt his finger, and that injury caused him to miss several weeks. He rushed back to play through that discomfort and still ranked number 10 among all quarterbacks in money throws, number 10 in air yards per attempt, number 13 in accuracy rate, and number 1 in accuracy rating in the red zone, behind an offensive line that ranked number 28 in pass block win rate. Per Sharp Football Analytics, despite the fierce competition in the NFC East, the Cowboys rank around middle of the pack in strength of schedule. This default line of 9.5 wins reads as somewhat of a floor for this improved Cowboys roster, and the implied 44% probability we're getting on our bet of an 11-win season just a year after they won 12, despite only being 5-3 in one-score games, is an absolute steal. I'm taking Cowboys over 10.5 wins for 1 unit. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks, one of the Cinderella stories of the 2022 regular season. They wrote off Geno Smith, but he didn't write back. Our question is, why did anybody write off Geno Smith in the first place? This Seahawks team was no fluke, and it's why I will be playing the juice for their over 8.5 wins in the 2023 regular season. Best price over at FanDuel, minus 142. I'm placing 1.5 units on over 8.5 wins. Now, this line is already juiced to up to minus 175 on some other books such as DraftKings, and this line simply shouldn't be 9.5 in the first place at this price currently being offered over at FanDuel. The Seahawks went 9-8-0 last season in an NFC West division that was eventually dominated by the breakout campaign of Brock Purdy and his San Francisco 49ers. The LA Rams were looking to compete early, but injuries and underperformers saw them crumble, and they lost 9 of their last 11. The Cardinals were never good enough to compete for the division in the first place, and an injury to Kyler Murray put their season in the coffin. Fast forward a full season, and it is very clear which team in this division improved the most. It's Pete Carroll's squad. Last year, Seattle found their immediate future under center with Geno Smith. Then, all they do is address their offense in the draft with Ohio State wide receiver sensation Jackson Smith-Njigba, address their defense in the draft with the physical, versatile cornerback Devon Witherspoon, and they added depth in the backfield behind Kenneth Walker III to take some of the pressure off him. They addressed their number 28 ranked pass rush win rate defense by adding edge rushers in the draft. They acquired an offensive lineman in Anthony Bradford, and all this while only losing a couple of defensive depth pieces in free agency. Witherspoon will immediately address an area of need, which was Seattle's number 18 ranked pass DVOA defense from last season, while JSN will add to an already stacked pass catching room from an efficient passer in Geno Smith. Speaking of Geno Smith, many of you seemed surprised that he was good last year, and he actually finished as the quarterback 8 by fantasy points per game, but why? Even when Geno wasn't an everyday starter back in 2021, he posted a 79% clean pocket completion rate, 71% true completion rate, and a 7.1 deep ball accuracy rating, all of which would be among the league leaders if he qualified. In 2022, he just did more of the same. He ranked top 10 among all quarterbacks in money throws, adjusted yards per attempt, true completion rate, pressured completion rate, pressured catchable pass rate, and red zone accuracy rating. It's safe to admit that Geno Smith is really good and will be able to lead a potent and improved offense in 2023 once again. The Seahawks team is simply better than it was last year when they won 9 games. All we're asking out of this bet is a repeat of that performance, and we have ourselves a winning ticket on the over 8.5 wins at 1.5 units over at FanDuel. I'm not stopping there. For Sharp Football Analytics, the Seahawks have the 10th easiest projected strength of schedule in the regular season. That not only makes the juice on their win line worth it, but it also makes a sprinkle on them to win the NFC West at plus 200 a good idea. The NFC West is likely a 2-team race. The Cardinals and the Rams, they're both in traffic jams of roster turnovers. Los Angeles has aging players following the recent Super Bowl run, and Arizona, well, they're retooling, and they're going to be without Kyler Murray for at least a few games. So in this 1v1 battle between the 49ers and the Seahawks, we're getting spotted a 33% implied probability on Seattle to come out on top, and I think that's a steal of a price. All it takes for San Francisco to see some regression is for their uncertain quarterback roulette to take a dicey turn. With Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Sam Darnold all in the mix for reps, it is a dangerous bet to just assume that San Francisco can continue finding the magic that saw them earn a 3-1 record in one-possession games during last year's regular season. That's why I'm sprinkling half a unit on Seattle to win the NFC West. Last up, the moment we were all waiting for, my favorite bet of the 2023 NFL regular season. The New York Jets were one of the headliners of the NFL offseason, and it all started when they made the blockbuster trade of the year for quarterback Aaron Rodgers. But will that be enough for them to get to the 10-win mark and back to the NFL playoffs? Let's look into it. In 2022, the Jets finished with a 7-10 record behind the quarterback roulette surrounding Zach Wilson and Mike White. This offseason, they addressed that area of need with a future Hall of Famer. But is Aaron Rodgers really a lock to continue to produce at a Hall of Fame level in a season where he's going to turn 40 years old? Probably not. And this is one of the reasons I will be on the New York Jets under 9.5 wins at plus 110 on DraftKings. That's plus money, and I'm placing 2 units on it. Last year in his first experience without Devontae Adams since 2013, among all qualified quarterbacks, Rodgers ranked number 10 in accuracy rating, but number 21 in true completion percentage, number 26 in completion percentage in a clean pocket, and number 47 in catchable pass rate overall. Given his drop-off in efficiency as a passer, it's clear that Rodgers needs help with route winners across the field. And outside of Garrett Wilson, who's a stud, is this Jets strategy of replacing Elijah Moore with Mecole Hardman and Rodgers' old friends Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb a real problem solver? I don't think so. Start with Allen Lazard, who primarily functions as a deep shot and jump ball specialist with that wide frame that ranked number 13 in true catch rate last season. But outside of that, Lazard was simply inefficient. Last season, he ranked number 42 in yards per route run, despite being tied to Aaron Rodgers all season long. What about Randall Cobb? He spent his age 32 season working primarily out of the slot, also tied to Aaron Rodgers, and ranked number 18 in true catch rate, but still ranked just number 41 in yards per route run, number 49 in contested catch rate, and an abysmal number 102 in route win rate, which is just laughable for a slot-specific wideout. As for Mecole Hardman, he's supposed to serve as a speed merchant, but despite being in one of the best offenses in NFL history tied to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, he has only had one game in the last 2 seasons with at least 80 receiving yards. The bottom line, these Jets' weapons outside of Garrett Wilson are mediocre at best. Although the Jets worked on the depth in the offensive line this offseason, they ranked number 21 in pass block win rate last year, so they would need to improve significantly to give Rodgers a serious crutch, which he needs. For reference, last year's Packers ranked number 5 in pass block win rate. The Jets' defense is going to be good. They ranked top 5 in defensive DVOA last year and are going to have the same core led by cornerback Sauce Gardner. But there's only so much the defense can do to keep games winnable for this overrated offense. Last year, the Jets won 7 games, 4 of which by 1 score. The Bills and the Dolphins are better. So 10 wins for this Jets team seems more like a ceiling outcome rather than a fair line. Per Sharp Football Analytics, the Jets have the 7th hardest projected strength of schedule in the regular season. We get plus money on fading this team, and that to me is the biggest smash bet of the 2023 regular season at DraftKings for 2 units. And those are our 4 best bets of the 2023 NFL regular season team wins edition. Coming up next, Super Bowl bets, awards, long shots, even season-long player props. Get ready for a ton of betting content over at Player Profiler.